Now, it's time for me to give a huge, great welcome indeed to the man himself, Paul Young. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
It's great to have you on the programme. It really is, yeah.
Thank you very much.
And of course, you're on the programme today because you're going to be playing at Discorn Hall on the 9th of May, aren't you? Have you been into East Anglia before and performed here?
Yes, I have. Yeah, many times.
Yeah,
Not just as Paul Young, but the Pacaminos have played over that way as well.
It's interesting because I'd like to talk about Los Pacaminos just for a second because in kind of researching this interview, I listened to some of their music. It's smashing music. Now, how did Los Pacaminos come about?
I'd been with one record label for a long time, with CBS for about 12 years, and then that contract came to an end. And so there was some downtime, really, when we were looking for another record deal and also what direction I was going to go in. So I'd done some writing in Nashville. Also, for the last album I did a photo session down in Mexico, and I started to pick up on a lot of Mexican music and the influence it has on Texas blues. And I really liked it. And so then I thought, well, what am I going to do while I'm songwriting? I want to use my other spare time to pick up a guitar again and maybe play some music. And I chose Tex-Mex because it's a little-known style, and I didn't think there was any other band doing it in the UK. And so I did that, and that was 32 years ago now. And we've made 3 studio albums, a couple of live albums, and it's a lot of fun to do. I play more guitar. I take a back seat with the vocals sometimes and just do harmonies for the other singers. And so it's like a musical departure from what I'm famous for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think anyone who hasn't listened to Los Pacaminos really ought to take a listen. They're on YouTube, I know, and it's just great music. Now, you've got quite a pedigree, Paul, haven't you? Because you had a quadruple platinum album with your debut album, No Parley. Yeah,
that's right. I think it stayed in the charts for something like 100, it was somewhere around 150 weeks. No, what was that? That's it was in the top 100, so that's over 2 years. And because they've reissued No Parley recently as a Atmos, someone did a speech and they said the only album that outsold No Parley in that 2-year period was Thriller.
Good Lord, that is quite an accolade, isn't it? Yeah, you sold in excess of 1.2 million copies of that, of course, and that, of course, was in the UK alone. So, tremendous success. One of the things that I did find out was that you sang the opening line of Band-Aid's "Do They Know It's Christmas" as well, didn't you?
Yes, I did, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was that like, being with a bunch of, just the most famous people in the world, I would imagine, making that record at that time?
Yeah, it was incredible because I'd got my first hit album in 1983, so it was only a year later, and there I was doing Band-Aid with all these people that I used to see them in the charts, and now I was in the charts with them. So it was all quite new for me, and I walked in, and not long after I got there, they asked me to do the bit that they'd already got for me in the middle of the song, where it goes, "Here's to you, raise a glass for everyone," that bit, and he sings in his morning voice, and then hours later they asked me to go back and do the first 2 lines, and they said, could you try them? I think they tried a few other people on the first 2 lines because they're very important. They're the lines that hopefully suck everybody in, and I was lucky to get them.
You've got loads of friends, haven't you, in the business? Some very famous people that you know as well and call friends.
Yes, I have. There's quite a few. Although I do say that we tend to see each other more on the road. In fact, this weekend I'm going to Germany, and I'll be rubbing shoulders with Boy George, Tony Hadley, ABC, Holly Johnson. So it's a bit of a a club, shall we say, of all us people, and it's kind of nice to see us all still out there and doing it.
It's amazing because you've been around since the 80s, as you were saying a few minutes ago, but honestly, you still garner huge support, there's no doubt. I mentioned it on social media, and Angela Grout came back and said, can you arrange a coffee with him, or at least a meet? Well, I think people can meet you at Discorn Hall, can't they, I believe?
Yes, that's right. We do a meet and greet there, yep.
Yeah, and Sarah Westwood said, do love a bit of Paul Young. Is this a poison chalice for you?
They said, right, that they...
And Patsy Shepherd from Fulham St Mary said, he's such a nice guy. Well, I was thinking, well, how does she know? And she said, met him a few times when he used to go down to Chiddingfold to watch him sing at the Ex-Servicemen's Club. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it's with a band called the SAS Band, and they're a group of musician friends that I know, one of which the keyboard player is actually his band, but he's played with Queen and the Brian May Band for years, and he does a little bit of extra keyboards for them. So he started that band when Queen were, well, splitting up for the first time, which was just before Live Aid, so he thought, what am I going to do? And he started this SAS Band. So we used to play there. I think we did a lot of Christmas gigs, and I'd be on stage and I'd be singing with loads of other people like Paul Rogers from Free, Jess Roden, who I was a big fan of. Loads of people get up, Marillion from Fish and things. So we used to do that on a regular basis. Yeah,
and Catherine Barlow from London, of all places, she said, Paul Young was my teenage heartthrob. It must be quite a burden, I would imagine, Paul, all this notoriety, isn't it?
It's no burden at all. I mean, I don't think about it that much. It's nice that people think that way of me, but there's no great responsibility in it, other than to be yourself,
Yeah, and you've got a new album out which is called Behind the Lens, as we all know, and that, of course, is the name of the tour that you're just about to embark on. Tell me how Behind the Lens actually came about.
The album came about in lockdown, and I'd, as I said earlier, I'd been writing songs in Nashville, and some of which I'd used and some of which I hadn't, so I have to register them with my publishing company. So I did a demo recording of each song. So I thought, well, while I can't get into a studio, let's just have a look for a minute at what I have actually got. So I think there's about 5 tracks on the album that I wrote when I was out in Nashville. So what I did was I took the basic demo, which was just guitar, bass, drums, and a bit of vocal, and then I started adding some harmonies, some extra instruments, some string parts when they were needed, pedal steel on one, and I could send them off to my musician friends. So that was a good thing about the way you can work in a studio these days. So it was a long, slow process, and there's other things that I've done with other producers and bands as well. I recorded 3 tracks with Robert Palmer's old band, and there was a beautiful song called When the Stars Go Blue by Ryan Adams. And but then I found out that the Corrs had done it with Bono. I don't know if it was ever a single, but they definitely did a version of it. So I thought, oh damn, I've been beaten to the punch, and I left it. But when I played my version, I thought, it's so different, what does it matter? And so that ended up on the album as well. And then eventually I'd got like 11, 12 tracks.
And When the Stars Go Blue was the last single release as well, I believe, wasn't it?
That's right, yes.
Yeah, it's funny because I've actually picked my favourite track from the album to play us out of the interview, and it's a track called Angel, which of course you know. You were telling me there might be some chance for that one as well.
Yeah, it would be nice to be able to put that one out. These days I don't really know what a single is. There seems to be more of a fuss made once you've done the video, because then you can put that up on YouTube and you can do a big social media attack, and draw everybody to the video, because I don't know what radio plays these days and whether they will or whether they won't. So I tend to spend more time and money directing people to the video.
Okay. Do you lament or miss the old days? Do you like the way life is going these days?
Musically, I miss the old days and also the way things were done when you were signed to a record company, and so you had your own publicity office and all that kind of thing, and things were done for you. But now they're not. You have to do them yourself. You have to do the advertising or pay for someone to do the advertising. You've got to learn how to use social media to the best of its advantages, So, no, I'd like to get things done for me as opposed to doing them all myself. But as far as harking back to the old days, no, I still enjoy playing live on stage.
It's funny how things have changed. I mean, I can remember the days back in the 80s when I'd be sitting there at the moment with turntables on either side here and my fingers slipping one of the records ready to play it. Of course, I don't need to do that now. It's all computerized. Do I miss the old days? Yeah, kind of, I guess. Now then, you're going to be at Disc Cornhall on the 9th of May, aren't you?
Yes.
What can people expect of you on that day?
We've done a lot of these now, so it's a very informal thing. There's a coffee table book for sale, and it's something that I wrote with not a ghostwriter. It's actually he interviewed me and then transcripted it, and then I went back in and made it more my words, so that's out, and that covers those very important 12 years with CBS and a little bit either side of it as well, like how I got interested in music when I was young, for instance, and that kind of thing. And then we do a few songs acoustically, like we do one in the middle of the first set and one at the end. Then we do a couple more in the middle of the second set and another one at the end. And in between that, we're talking about the bands I've been in, how things happened, like how I got on the Band Aid record, how I ended up doing a duet with George Michael on Every Time We Go Away, and ended up meeting Chaka Khan and doing a duet with her on one of my albums, and getting Stevie Wonder to play harmonica on the track, and
These are legendary names. They really are, Paul, aren't they? And, so you're going to be there 9th of May. I understand there might be some tickets left, actually. So if anybody wants to book them, they need to go to the Disc Cornhall website and get in there pretty quickly, because I would imagine after my talking to you today, there's going to be a bit of a rush for those tickets. I'm certainly looking forward to meeting you, Paul, on the 9th of May at Disc Cornhall. Thank you so much for being with us on the programme today. It's been an absolute privilege to talk to you, Paul, and it will be so to meet you as well on the 9th of May at the Cornhall.
Thank you.
All right, Paul, thanks very much. And